On May 28, 2013, Maximum the Hormone would announce a 24-hour live stream on the Japanese video site Nico Nico Doga. This stream would feature a collection of Maximum the Hormone videos, a pajama party featuring the band, and an announcement about the thing they'd been working on for the last 6 years. It had been 6 years since the release of their previous feature album, Buiki Kaisu, leaving many fans to suspect Maximum the Hormone would announce a new album. What they would end up actually announcing was a new song and an internet scavenger hunt to find the music video for it. It required users to go to a site and solve a number of word puzzles, and they were rewarded with the music video if they got it right. That song and the video was none other than Alien. If you have ever wondered why the music video for this song is listed under a completely different YouTube channel, this is why. The video was intentionally hidden for the purpose of the scavenger hunt. Now let's examine the video and song and understand what it actually means. What's up guys, it's Jpop OG, and today we're doing a complete breakdown of the song Aedin, otherwise known as Alien, by Maximum the Hormone. Now, around the time of COVID, this song blew up in popularity, with a number of people now being at home reacting to this song. So this song has become quite famous among foreign metal communities, and a lot of times people want to see the reaction to it because they have no idea what it means. So if you've ever wanted to know what this song is about, I hope you'll stick around. Now there's 3 things I gotta get out of the way before we do that. One is that I am using this song for completely educational purposes only. I don't own the rights to this, and that's my little disclaimer. Secondly, I'm going to be referencing a translation that was done for this song, as well as an interview that Ryokun gave with Jrock, which is a kind of metal or Japanese rock outlet that does a lot of interviews for things like that. The translation is actually from this old blog that did a quick translation of the song back in 2013 after the song had come out. However, it has a number of different mistakes in it, so I've kind of cleaned it up and fixed those mistakes. It's pretty serviceable actually, so I am going to be using some of that for a lot of the heavy lifting, but for the other stuff, I've gone up and just cleaned it up. And finally, ハロペコたちの皆様へ、はい、こんにちは。Jpop G と申します。今回は英語で説明するから、もしよければ後翻訳を使っていただきたいんです。まずは、右下の設定歯車を押して、はい、カプションをオンにして、はい、もう一回押して、音翻訳を押して、日本語を見つけて、はい、もう一回押していただきたいんです。それとも日本語のコメントも OK です。私も日本語でお返事頑張りますから、これからもよろしくお願いします。So how this is going to work is, I'm going to play about 30 seconds of the song and then stop and tell you the English lyrics for what they just said. We're going to talk about some of the stuff in the wordplay, but I'll go into a more overall discussion about what the song means after we get through it. Alright, just before we begin, the words and music are made by Maximum's Ryokun. And he is kind of the spiritual, creative backbone of Maximum the Hormone. He oftentimes writes most of their songs, and we're going to be referencing him quite a few times during this. So just want to give some credit to him before we start. And you're going to see there's going to be a really small venue. It really feels like an authentic live show. And one of the things you'll notice is that all of the members in the audience are men, and I will explain why that is later. Okay, let's look at the English translation.
Overly flattering government, deceitful appearance, fabricated details, Danger Enterprise. Praise and censure creed, jumbled up truth. All of Japan lamenting. Has nihilism come?
Now, one of the important things to note here is that Danger Enterprise is kind of a wordplay between Dangerous Enterprise, meaning the government, and Danger Enterprise, like Star Trek. There's going to be a few more references made like this in the song, so I just want you to make sure that you got that one. Now, as you can probably tell from the first part of the song, you can see that it's kind of an anti-government anthem. And that theme is going to be more apparent as we continue. Okay, let's look at the English.
A self-contradicting loop of complaints. Many cases of depression from falling into dilemma. Self-important men in suits swarming around rights. One group or another, craving profit. Self-interested slave loaded with empty arguments. Money disappears as vain expenses. Embracing distrust, discord arises. Standing idly by, remembering indignation.
So as you can see, we're talking about government corruption and using their power to get more money or more rights, whatever it is that they're trying to get. Very much staple anti-government messaging. All right, now let's continue. All right, sorry. I love Daisuke Han's growl. It is like a signature of his, and it was definitely something that they wanted to include in this song, as well as a breakdown, which we're going to get to soon. But let's look at the English lyrics.
Ego? Freedom? LOL. Sinister vomit stench. Why don't you? Selfish.
He goes on to repeat that another time, and then says,
Save me. The healing is yet to be completed. Throw it away. The healing is yet to be completed. Take it off. The healing has yet to be complete.
Now for the growl part.
20-year-olds head to the election. The person they elect will not be allowed into office.
So I just want to return back to the part where the growl starts, and you can actually hear Daisuke say 20 age, which basically translates into 20-year-olds. So let's hear that again. I just love it. I just love it. I don't need an excuse to listen to this again. Anyways. So what does this mean? Well, this is excuses that a politician would use to someone who is sort of questioning their beliefs. Why should I follow you? For my own self-interest, my ego, for freedom? Don't make me laugh. Those are all lies. Which is why he says it stinks of vomit. Then they say, why don't you? Wagamama, which means selfishness. Why is this selfish? Well, it would be as though you're complaining to a politician, and then they say, well, why don't you? Even though they're the ones who have the power and are usually in charge and are supposed to be accountable for those problems. So this part of the song, referring to the election, actually led many Japanese listeners to believe that they were being critical of the AKB Senbatsu elections. Now, around this time, they were being criticized for making a kind of dehumanizing system in which fans could vote for their favorite girls, and then the girls that would get the most votes would be at the top of the tier of the rest of the girls, and out of 80 girls, they would be split up into about 5 groups of 16, I believe. What would happen is that a lot of fans, especially older fans who had a lot of money, would end up buying thousands of CDs because every CD contained a ballot that you could send in to vote. I'm not going to get too much into this, and especially because Ryokun did confirm in the interview that this song really doesn't have anything to do with that, but it is an interesting story to look into if you have the time. That being said, let's continue. Okay, I will stop here so I can explain what's going on. Let's look at the English lyrics.
A judge determines eligible voters, discreetly and delicately, straight to the future. Believe in the Force, Jedi. Believe in the Force, Jedi. Believe in the Force, era.
Now, this is a play on words between the word Jedi and the Japanese word Jidai, which means era. But in this sense, it means more like generation, meaning we are the generation that believes in the Force. This is another sci-fi reference. This is also why you see Ryokun start glowing blue all over the place, because he is becoming a Force ghost like in Star Wars. And it appeals to Star Wars fans, which I think are majority male. At least they were, I would say, maybe 25 years ago. Although today, I think there's a lot more female fans, which I think is really cool. So yeah, if you've ever wondered why he starts glowing blue all of a sudden, this is why. All right, let's continue. All right, let's look at the English.
I get it, you assholes. Later, I'll email it to you later. Why are you guys making all this chattering? Going out of your way to be as annoying as possible. Get to the chopper, Futosh.
So in this sense, you're hearing the direct words from the politician themselves responding to people complaining about them about something. Basically saying, oh yeah, you guys are being so annoying. I'll email you the stuff later. Just get out of my face. Why are you guys complaining so much? You know, going out of your way to being as annoying as possible. Now, something interesting that happens here is that the line, Choppa ike, futoshi. Chopper is how you describe playing slap bass in Japanese. It's known as chopper bass. And Futoshi is the real name of the bass player, Wei-chan. And so he says, slap that bass, Futoshi. However, when you hear the words, get to the chopper, which is what this could be literally translated as, that is in fact a famous line from the movie Predator, and we see another sci-fi reference. This one is a little more of a stretch than the other ones, but seeing as how we have two other sci-fi references that are also done in a manner of wordplay, I think that it's not a stretch to assume that. Now let's get to the breakdown. Okay, let's look at the English.
Brother rescue. Brother, let's go. Bravo to us. Bravo to you. Cunning dependence. More Frozen. Next season, revival rhythm.
He goes on to repeat this line 4 more times. So the meaning of this will become clear when we come back to it later. However, we should understand that this is a reference to Maximum the Hormone. So, a cunning dependence means being dependent on a government, but when you become more dependent on the government, it actually makes you more frozen than you were before, meaning that you'll have less rights and be able to have less freedom in the future the more you depend on them. However, he says, next season, revival rhythm or buikisu, which is a reference to their previous album, which was titled Buikaisu, which means to spring back to life. What this means then is next season, election season, it's our time. It's maximum the hormone time. It's we're coming back to take the election, all of us together, and you hear some language in the front calling each other brothers. We're brothers, and good for you and good for us for not, being fooled by the government. This will make a lot more sense later, and we will return here at the end. Keep that for later. Now, let's get to the next part. Alright. Sorry of the mouse over there. I actually love this song, and I kind of have my own reaction to it because I just love listening to it, so sorry about that little blip there, but let's take a look at the English one more time before we get to the flip side of this song.
Hey, you that's booing. Some abusive language to you. Hey, booing at that. Stop. Conspiracy. You who's booing. Some violent language to you. Booing at that. Prevent conspiracy. Who is your ally? Who is your enemy? Only your way of life cannot be stolen by anyone. Every day, scrutinize meaning. Every day, scrutinize meaning. Every day, scrutinize meaning.
So once again, we have more perspective from a politician, meaning, hey, you who over there who's booing, saying some really nasty stuff to them, but then when they start booing at something that actually matters to them, it's a conspiracy and they become the victim. Meaning that at first when they see you booing, they want to oppress you, but then depending on who you're or what you're booing at, they become the victim. It's kind of a play at both sides, and we're going to see how that pans out in the future. Then we have some nuclear imagery with everyday scrutinized meaning. Everyday thinking critically about what's going on and what matters to you. Then we talk about who's your ally, who's your enemy. Only your way of life cannot be stolen from you. Who you are can't be taken away from you, right? Holding on to your values, yourself. Choose who you want to be. And then in the next lines we hear repeating of every day, consider meaning. Every day, think about what things mean. Every day, use your critical thinking to consider who is lying to you and who isn't. Overall, this is an anti-political song and an anti-politician song that is critical of politicians in general. Now, let's get to the part where everything takes a left turn. So for many people watching this the first time, this is pretty surprising. Ryokun actually said in an interview that he wanted to make this the first video because it would be incredibly impactful, but it would be the last song on their new album because he was worried people would skip forward if they put it somewhere else. When the song took a total turn in tone and pacing, He thought people would just try to skip to the next one because it wasn't hardcore anymore, so he put it at the end of the album. So what's going on here? Well, she says, alien, alien, come and kidnap me like in a movie. Alien, alien, but it will never come true. Well, I will explain this later, but for now, we'll come back to it at another time. So, let's talk about what exactly is Winny Upload. Winny was a peer-to-peer file sharing service created in the early 2000s in Japan, similar to peer-to-peer file sharing services that we had in America like LimeWire or Kazaa. A lot of people are also too young now to remember those things, but I even remember back in the day using services like that to try to get files. I was a kid, lots of people did it. Well, they had Winny, and of course, one of the things that was often shared on these services was music. So of course, people were not happy about that. And what affects artists many times trying to shut these down? A very famous case, of course, being Metallica suing Napster in America. What I could find about this is that there were 2 people that were eventually arrested for sharing copyrighted materials shortly after the Japanese police would search the home of the creator of Winny, Isamu Kaneko. Kaneko would eventually have his home searched and the source code would be taken from him. And even though they tried to put him in jail, eventually Kaneko was told to pay a fine of 1.5 million yen, the equivalent of about 13,000 US dollars. He appealed the ruling, and the guilty verdict was overturned by the Osaka High Court. On December 20th, 2011, Kaneko was cleared of all charges after the Supreme Court of Japan agreed that the prosecution could not prove that he had any intention to promote the software for illegal use. Something else that's also incredible about this is Japan actually made an entire feature-length film just about Winny, titled Winny. So if you're interested, you can go watch an entire movie about the Winny controversy, which I think is hilarious, and I love the name Winny. I think this is so funny to me, but that's maybe just a me thing, I don't know. Anyways, as you can see, we have a theme of stop Winny uploads. However, at the time when this song came out in 2013, Winny had pretty much been wiped from the internet, and there were more popular ways of piracy at that time through torrenting, so it was kind of out of fashion. Now today, I believe Winny is still around, but it has very few active members, and, well, you probably shouldn't use it anyways, but since they did have a hard time prosecuting people for it, maybe just don't do it. Let's continue. As we see Naosan drifting into the darkness, and we're going to see the rest of the band here pretty soon. And yes, she is the drummer of the band. She's just dressed in this really cute piece of clothing, and we're going to talk about that later when we get to the end.
Stop, 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 Winny. 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 Stop, stop,
And just to be clear, the lyrics here are stop, stop the Winnie, stop, stop. Stop, 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 stop. Stop the Winnie. Okay, so for the final part of this music video, Naosan and her brother, which is Daisuke-han, are going to get into an argument. Yes, the lead singer of Maximum the Hormone and the drummer are brother and sister.
俺たちはウィニーを絶対に許せへんからなウィニーだけは
We will not allow any more Winnie uploads. Only Winnie.
大ちゃんもうウィニーとかもう今更誰もやってないし
Hey, Dai-chan. No one's even using Winnie these days.
他にストップしなきゃいけないこといっぱいあるから
And there's a lot more important things that we should be saying stop to.
あんまりそう大きな声出されてる子供たちもみんな帰っちゃったし
And there's no reason to use such a loud voice. Look, all the kids have gone home.
もうだってこれ以上アップロードだけは絶対に。
いやわかるけど一人だけ子供も残ってる子も本当泣きそうだし
お前も
Well, we have to stop the Winnie uploads. Well, I know, look, but there's one kid left and it looks like she's about to cry. Daisuke's about to say, Omae mo so yaro, which means like, you hate Winnie too, right? But him calling a child Omae, which is a really rude reference to say to somebody you don't know, is funny. The first time I saw this, I died laughing. Okay, let's continue.
そう思うやろ。
いやいやいや絶対分かってへんし
No. She has no idea what's going on.
最後の一人も帰っちゃったし
And look, now the last one's gone home.
お前もウィーニー嫌いやろ。
You hate Winnie too, right?
だからウィニー誰もやってねえっつってんの
That's why I said no one's even using Winnie.
見てみたいな顔して
Over there with your Mitsue face. This is their mom. This is the mom of the singer and the drummer. So you can tell this is a brother-sister argument. Family argument for sure.
見てみたいな顔してやめろ
Get that Mitsue look off your face.
俺のことは悪く言ってもええわ。
And we get to see Ryokun chasing two costume animal people through the stage with a censorship icon of his face over where his junk would be, I suppose. So, what does this song all mean? Let's break it down. It is my opinion that in every Maximum the Hormone video, nothing is done without purpose, and nothing is coincidence. Ryokun thinks very deeply about the meaning of his songs and the imagery that goes with it. While on the surface it appears this music video is being critical of hypocritical bands that sell out for the sake of their music sales, it's important to understand that the first half of this song and the second half of this song are two different types of manipulation. In other words, propaganda. A blatant look at the differences between what is known in marketing as a hard sell versus a soft sell. One side appeals to men, and one side appeals to women. Think of it like this. What kind of advertisement would you make to sell a pickup truck versus what kind of advertisement you would make in order to sell cat food? If we go back to the beginning, we can see that every member of the audience is a man. We also see that there are mirrors all around the venue to make it seem larger than it is, and that there are more people than there actually are. The actual venue itself is really quite small. Some of the men in the pit are also hired professionals, either stuntmen, wrestlers, or martial artists. We can also hear that the lyrics in the first half contain popular sci-fi or alien references, and use a lot of us versus them type of language in order to create solidarity. Lines like brother rescue, brother let's go, or who is your ally and who is your enemy enforce this idea. The music style was inspired from bands like System of a Down, Pantera, and the Wild Hearts, and was composed to sound popular and catchy. Also, I think it goes without saying, but Ryokun loves this style of music. He absolutely loved making the first half of this song, and I think that came across very well. It is a very cool song, but under the surface, it is manipulative in persuading you to vote in a certain way. If we go to the second half of the song, it opens with animation or anime, something that is extremely popular in Japan. And Naosan is singing in a very high-pitched and cutesy tone. This then fades away to a similar-looking space stage play with Nao and a dancer dancing, showing a type of romance maybe. She's wearing a very girly type of dress, something that is completely out of the ordinary for Maximum the Hormone. In fact, in almost all of their music videos, they are wearing some type of band t-shirt or another. A fun fact about this part of the song is that Nao actually called a Japanese dance choreographer, Ken Maeda, to come and do the choreography for this part of the video after seeing him do the choreography for a video that was done by Precure. I believe this video was probably Heartcatch as it was released around a similar time, and there is a video showing Ken Maeda doing the choreography for it. However, that video's maximum resolution is about 240p, but I will still link it in the description if you want to go watch some interesting mashed potatoes. We can also see that there are multiple women holding up the word stop in between the dancing. You'll notice that the only people that are holding signs here are women. The signs also only say stop and not stop Winny or stop the uploads. This leads me to believe that this was taken from stock footage rather than made for the actual video itself, another form of manipulation. It's very likely that the women holding those signs don't even know what they're saying stop to and can be used for a variety of different issues. We can then see the band on stage at something that's reminiscent of a 70s charity fund. We also see children rushing to the stage, another form of soft selling, as balloons are also seen with the word stop printed on them. There are also costume mascots similar to something that you might see at a children's birthday party. When we see children run to the stage, Ryokun's face has been supplanted onto a child's, a subconscious message to view Maximum the Hormone as innocent victims to the awful Winny upload pirates stealing their music. If you look closely near the end before the argument, you can actually see fake tears falling down that have been placed on each member of the band in post-production editing. We also know from the argument between Daisuke and Nao that the children really have no idea why they're there. If you listen to the music, it's also been toned down, and they're using a softer version of rock in order to make a song about Winny that appeals to a larger demographic or a softer demographic. The two halves of this song use a variety of techniques to create two opposing narratives. The first half, they are tough, cool, and on your side, but in the second half, they are victims of Winny uploaders and they want you to feel sorry for them. But what does this really have to do with aliens? To explain that, we'll need to go back to the breakdown and the first part of the second half. If we go back to the first part of the second half when the animation begins, we see the line, "Alien, alien, come and kidnap me like in a movie." We also saw three popular science fiction references in the beginning of the song in the first half, those being Star Trek, Star Wars, and Predator. Each of these movies has aliens in them, and I think that they're just references that are meant to be enjoyed. However, it should be known that aliens in this song come under the context of kidnapping people, and that they are not your friends. If we go back to the part where the breakdown begins, we can see multiple different bodies and growing out of each of the band members. What this signifies is that they have been taken over by aliens. Soon after, we see a scene where each of the three band members in the front row grow 2 extra heads, giving them 3 heads total. What these heads represent are the different faces or different masks that people wear to manipulate each other. 1 head for appealing to men, 1 head for appealing to women, and 1 head contains their true intentions. These true intentions represent something different than what is being communicated by the propaganda. You'll notice that Naosan the drummer does not grow heads during this section, and that is because she does not sing vocals during the breakdown. This signifies again that people who have been kidnapped by aliens manipulate others with their words, but can be exposed when you compare what that person says with what that person actually does. Whether it's by writing anti-government sentiment to sell more records, or by becoming a victim to stop Winny uploads, basically the person in the center represents the aliens and also represents money. What it means to be captured by aliens or kidnapped by aliens in this song means to be kidnapped by special interests or influences outside of your art or duty. This applies to artists and politicians. The message here is that artists who sell out and place outside influence or personal greed over their artistic integrity are in fact aliens or have been kidnapped by the aliens and are working for them. That is something that is more relevant today than ever, with many people in politics or entertainment selling out in order to get something they want, whether it be more money, more influence, or more power. Now let's talk about the real message behind this song. Ryokun confirms that the true message behind the song comes at the end. I kind of skipped over it quickly before, but did you notice that during the argument between Naosan and Daisuke-han, there is only one line of dialogue that has been subtitled? This is the real message being conveyed in the song. There are many more important things that we must say stop to. If we view this line through the lens of the song itself, it isn't just that we should be saying stop to aliens, but rather to corruption itself, and that things you should say stop to should be based off of your own lived experiences and not what some politician, artist, or influencer tells you what you should think. Because at the end of the day, the people seeking to manipulate you can't gain control over you if you don't allow yourself to be influenced by them. Just because you like an artist doesn't mean you should allow them to decide your morals and values. And you should think critically about a person's words versus a person's actions. Does this person really have my best interests at heart? Are they telling the truth about who they are? Or are they attempting to manipulate me in some way? Is this person a true artist? Or have they been kidnapped by aliens? Ryokun, more than anything, wants you to stop and think critically about the art and content that you engage with daily. Now let's return to the first part of the second half one more time. So once again, the lines here are, alien, alien, come and kidnap me like in a movie, alien, alien, but it will never come true. What this means is that this music video is a satirical look about what Maximum the Hormone might look like if they sold out, but it will never come true. Basically telling their audience directly that Maximum the Hormone will never sacrifice their artistic integrity in order to make money. Something else that's kind of fun is that the title of this song is written with spaces in between the letters. What this has led many Japanese people to believe that the title of this song, Alien, is actually an anagram for a word in Japanese if we rearrange the letters. If we take the letters and rearrange them to be A-D-E-E-N, this forms a word, arien, which is a short form for arienai, which means unbelievable. The point being that this reinforces the idea that Maximum the Hormone will never sell out. I think the reason for this is that Ryokun wants people to experience his art rather than consume it. Everything that goes on around his songs, including the music video, the album covers, the lyrics, and all of the different illustrations that go into making these things, are all important and meaningful to him. Ryokun would like you to decide for yourself what you think is important to say stop to, and that there are a lot more important things outside of just your own personal desires or your insatiable lust for money. There is a lot of greed not only in the industry, but in politics, and that stands true today. What you think you should be saying stop to should not be influenced by anyone, not politicians, not artists, and not influencers. He wants you to critically think about what is important to you and not fall for the propaganda unless you want to be kidnapped by the aliens. But you know what? I actually do have something I want to say stop to, and that is garbage AI translations. This is on a website called lyricslayers.com. In the search bar, it literally says, search for a song to dive into its meaning. Now look at this. The sacredness of the upper tea ceremony. The modesty of the tabrakasa. It just gave up. It gave up by the second line. The Denjar Enterprise. The colorful slaves of the Helix celebration. Come on, man. Come on. Twitter. I like Twitter age. Twitter age. Go to the election. Give the brave a badge to the tall winning teacher. Straight to the future. I mean, this is just pure trash. Please be careful when you look at a translation for any Japanese media. There is a very good chance that something about that is very, very wrong. Guys, this clearly was like an audio translation and then like audio to Japanese, and then it took the audio it heard in Japanese and translated it into English. And that's how we end up with this steaming pile of garbage that is like beyond anything I can even imagine. I mean, come on. Unfair. Continuous freeze necklace booing rhythm. Anyways, guys, I'm Jpop OG, and if you enjoyed this video, maybe just give me a little like or a sub. And if you want to see more videos like this, maybe just give me a comment below. Help me learn what I can improve on, do differently. I'd really love to make this format a mainstay. It is hard to get people to learn things about their favorite songs, but I love talking about this stuff, so it would mean the world to me if you guys would let me do this and just gush about my favorite Japanese artists. So thank you so much for coming by, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace and peace.